Welcome, everyone. I am so honored to be a part of this year's National Town Hall. My name is Vivian Sanchez. I'm 17 years old, and my advocacy started after I learned my voice and story have power. I'm a survivor and youth advocate. Before we get started today, I would like to offer a trigger warning. Some of the topics we will be talking about and discussing today could be triggering to some. If at any point you feel it's too much, please feel free to jump off or take a step back. We care about your mental health, and we want everyone here to allow themselves today to create healthy boundaries and know whenever it could be too much. Please take care of yourself before, during, and after listening. Being able to recognize when something is too much is courageous, and I applaud all of you for being here today. Today, we hope to accomplish promoting survivor-centered prevention efforts to prioritize safety, justice, and well-being, while also creating a survivor-centered prevention efforts that prioritize safety, justice, and well-being, while also creating a trauma-informed, resilience-based post-pandemic approaches that center around racial justices. While I have the next couple of minutes to talk, I would like to take the time to share my story and the intersection of being a survivor and a woman of color. 4 years ago, my life would change forever. I was assaulted at the hands of someone I trusted, someone I loved. A couple months before the assault, I was the happiest teenager. I loved life. I was surrounded by so much love and support. I looked forward to the upcoming years, the most exciting part of life, the teenage years. What was supposed to be the most exciting part of my life turned out to be the most painful, scary, and uncertain points in my life. When I finally gained the courage to report what happened and the police were called, while all of it was so traumatic, the one thing that I remember and that stands out most to me was the cops. A white male with his colleague, also a white male, I remember hearing, just another family assault. And the other officer chuckled and said, "Well, I will never marry into a Mexican family." Always accusations. Although this was said in private and they thought no one was around, I was around. I was listening. Every inch of courage in that moment seized. I felt ashamed. I felt gross. I felt hurt that the people who were supposed to help were siding with him. Even if they were not, just that comment alone felt that way. I regretted reporting because it hit me. I just became a stereotype of Hispanic households and violence. That night, the defendant got to drive away and was not arrested because there was no evidence. So as he got to drive away, I had to drive to the hospital to get a rape kit done. I had to relive all my trauma once again. Thankfully, at the hospital, the forensic examiner was so understanding and so incredibly kind. She made it a point to let me know that what happened was not my fault. While the defendant was on the run for 11 months, I was in counseling trying to find happiness after what he had done. Eventually, after 2 years, we went to trial and he got a guilty sentence. I received justice. For a while, I lost my sense of safety because of the defendant, because of the officer's comments, because of the victim blaming I endured. But thankfully, through therapy, I found my sense of safety again. I'm finally able to recognize that what happened was not my fault. I stand here today and use my voice to raise awareness, to educate, to be the change. We have to educate our friends, our families, our peers, those around us. I'm just unfortunately one of many survivors of color who've endured such comments. This has to change. And through all of our hard work today and every day, we are hopeful for a bright future. Desmond Tutu once said, "Hope is being able to see that there is light despite the darkness." Although these past couple years, we've been going through a lot of darkness, I have faith that things will change and that things will get better. They have to. I share my story to let everyone out there know there is hope. Life after trauma is not only possible, but it's enjoyable and exciting. Someone very wise once told me, "This fire ignited within you was not because of what happened to you. It's always been there." And that has always stuck with me. My story does not define me. I am strong and courageous, and that's because that is who I am, not because of what happened to me. I know now I can be the person I needed when I was younger. I am the change. All of us here today, we are all the change. What I thought was the end of my life was truly just the start. My teenage years are not what I expected them to be, but they're so much better. While I did struggle a lot before I got to this point, I truly did find myself while I was at rock bottom. I still have bad days, but that's okay because healing is not linear. Healing is so complex and hard, but at the same time, so rewarding and so worth it. To anyone listening today, I hope you know that there's so much more to life than what you're going through right now. Even if it may not feel like it, there is hope. We are going to change. We are going to be better for our peers, survivors, victims, friends, and all of our future generations. I hope and know that one day our future generations will not have to go through this because we are clearing the path and making things better for them. I hope all of you here today enjoy listening to the rest of our amazing, strong, courageous speakers today. Thank you for listening to me. Now I want to turn over to Arlene Vassell, Vice President of Programs Prevention and Social Change at the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, to facilitate our opening panel, Survivor Center Prevention, Listening to Survivors of Color. Arlene, take it over.
Thank you so much, Vivian. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for, oh my God, just demonstrating hope and why we're here, right? And like you said, and help us all to see the light despite the darkness. So in the midst of chaos, in the midst of everything that's happening around us, thank you for sharing hope, right? That's the perfect way to kind of start this conversation. So inspiring. Hope, and light is all that I'm taking from your story. And I look forward to continued engagement and hearing from you over the next 2 days. So beyond my title of Vice President of Programs and Prevention Change at the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, I'm also a mother. I'm a proud immigrant from Jamaica. I'm an auntie. I'm a published author. I am a mentor. I am a joy seeker. I am a self-proclaimed hope dealer, right? So again, Vivian, you just spoke so much life into me and into my journey and into my goals as it relates to our movement and what I would like to see come from our movement. So on behalf of NRCDV, including our board of directors and staff, and the National Intimate Partner Violence Prevention Council, we want to thank you all for making time to join us for our second National Prevention Town Hall. If you missed our first town hall held in September 2020, all presentation materials and relevant resources, most importantly, including the call for action from each presenter, is available at preventipv.org. I also want to acknowledge the planning group and the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence staff members that greatly contributed to this event happening today. I want to give a special shout out to Casey Keene, our Director of Programs and Prevention at the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, who coordinated all the moving parts, the many moving parts that contributed to us being here today. So why are we here? In addition to what Vivian already shared, why are we here? Why did you make time to join us today? If you have not done so already, take a minute to note your expectations of our time together. And if at the end of our time together, those expectations were not met and you still have questions, feel free to reach out to NRCDV so we can work on resolving those unaddressed issues together. So back to why we are here. Why are we here and why this event? I can sum it up in 3 words: advancing collective liberation. It's time for all of us, advocates, activists, and preventionists, to intentionally pivot our prevention work in bold and innovative ways in response to the racial inequities that the twin pandemics have laid bare, especially for Black individuals and communities. We can't go back to business as usual and unlearn all that have been exposed regarding our collective prevention efforts over the last 2 years. Our amazing speakers and presenters will share facts, information about their lived experiences and the experiences of individuals and advocates in their communities. They will also share promising practices, model policies, and concrete strategies for pivoting our prevention work. The lineup over the next 2 days are amazing. I am super excited and I look forward to learning and hearing from our presenters. And while we are focusing on the southern region of the United States, the strategies and information shared can be adapted in communities across the United States. And so why are we focusing on survivor-centered prevention on day 1? Personally, a statement from Lisa Winchell Caldwell during our last prevention town hall has stuck with me and has served as an ongoing reminder of why we need to focus on and learn more about survivor-centered prevention. Lisa's comments, quote, "At what point in my history of survivorship did I become irrelevant to the process of prevention?" And let's also hold Vivian's story as well. At what point does Vivian's story become irrelevant to our prevention efforts? And while we digest and sit with Lisa's comment and Vivian's story, we need to be intentional about centering the voices of survivors who are most marginalized. Survivors who self-identify as Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And day 2, why are we focusing on transforming our agencies to center racial justice? Again, we can't unlearn all that we have learned from the past 2 years as it relates to our collective prevention work. And for far too long, many individuals and populations, community leaders, and leaders working in the domestic and sexual violence movement have significantly contributed to prevention efforts without the appropriate acknowledgement and credit. They've been dismissed and silenced. And today we say no more. The communities and individuals most impacted by the violence we are working towards ending and preventing are the persons with the solution. And just so often we hear individuals say, we know that, Arlene, we know those are the individuals with the solutions, but we don't know how to do that work. We don't know where to begin. Worry no more. Over the next 2 days, you will receive concrete strategies and tools to assist with pivoting your work in new and bold ways to promote real transformational change that centers racial equity, racial justice in your organizations and communities. So again, why are we here? Our collective liberation, advancing collective liberation. We need all of us to make that vision a reality. So with that said, I'm gonna move into inviting our first two speakers into the space. Salika Corley-Funches and V. Speak Life Morgan. Welcome, welcome. Salika Corley-Funches, pronouns she, her, hers, is an international speaker, trainer, advocate, and author who reflects on her past experiences, pain, and trauma to educate her audiences on human trafficking and domestic violence. Salika currently serves as the program manager for the first human trafficking / crisis stabilization unit co-ed facility for youth in Mississippi. She passionately served 6 years as the Victim Assistance Coordinator with the Hinds County Sheriff's Office, is a certified crime prevention specialist, crisis counselor, family advocate, and supervisory family advocate. Salika is a nonprofit board member with Jubilee Havens for victims and survivors of sex trafficking, a member of the Community Task Force with the FBI, which focuses on interpersonal crimes, and social work student at Belhaven University. Salika, thank you for gracing us with your presence today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next, V. Speak Life Morgan. With a global motto, the more we speak life, the more we will see positive outcome manifest. Pronouns she, her, hers. B. Speak Life Morgan is an author, a sincere servant leader whose message is speak life, not thrive. The former science and math educator is equipped with over 2 decades of combined professional experience working in corporate America and enhancing the lives of youth and families. She is now all about developing chemistry with the masses. I love that. And showing domestic violence survivors how to thrive and gain positive self-awareness, worth, and empowerment. As the founder and executive director of Shifted Masterpiece Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that serves and supports domestic violence survivors, families, and at-risk youth, V. Speak Life Morgan is a change agent, a coach who teaches life skills, leadership, anti-bullying, awareness, and legacy builder. Thank you so much, V. Speak Life Morgan, for gracing us with your presence. I am so looking forward to this conversation. Before we jump in, V. Speak Life Morgan, do you want to tell people a little bit about your name? Do you want to share?
Well, I think that's a great way to begin because I once was a bruised and battered wife, but I choose to speak life, not strife. And although parts of my life have stabbed me oh so deep like a symbolic knife, I still choose to speak life, not strife. Speak life, because the more we speak life, the more positive outcomes manifest over our lives. I chose this name as my pen name when I went into hiding. And so no one would understand or know who I was. And now I have found some more freedom. So I've at least added my true last name, Morgan. But that intro tells it all. To speak life, not strife.
Love it. Okay, so we're speaking life. We are shedding light. We are just hope healer, hope dealers, and we are
Right.
just working it out. Yes, yes, yes. So first question for you both. What is your vision of the world we need to create together? Who wants to go first?
Would you like to go, Salika?
Okay, so my hope is that several things, actually, that we delete and erase the stereotypes and the biases that exist. As you heard in my bio, I spent 6 years in law enforcement, and we know it's predominantly males who work there. And to hear some of the comments that would be made, when we would have to go out to scenes in certain areas. And so if, you possibly had a male who didn't exactly feel that way, then they would call for me to come. And at that time, I would share my experiences. I would be able to connect with them and try to get them started in the right direction. But it's gonna take those biases and those stereotypes to know that each person is different. Each trauma is unique. Each person is unique.
Mhm.
And they should be treated as humans, because that victim or that I don't like the word victim, that survivor. We're going to go ahead and speak life, Ms. V. We're going to call them survivors. We're not going to call them victims. They belong to someone, their mothers, their sisters, their friends. And just because it didn't hit your family that day, it could be at any moment a member of your family. And so we have to treat each other with respect,
Mhm. Yes,
with inclusion, and
Yes.
individually.
yes. Thank you. Yes.
And so that's my hope.
I
Yes.
love that.
Yes. Speak life. Yes.
Thank you. And in response to that, similar to what you shared, Salika, the importance of us wanting to make those true, meaningful connections with one another as we're doing the work here on the ground now. And I think the cliched message is that, oh, I wish we had world peace. My message is more about world unity,
Mhm.
which would bring about world peace, doing those things that we can to stimulate an environment of expansion of our spiritual, intellectual, our social aspects of life. And as we do that, we want to focus now on the vitality of each individual, but bringing us all together as one. So that unique oneness that we have, where we don't see those many differences
Right.
amongst us. So I would just finalize by just saying that unity and doing those things that we can to bring about unity, breaking down the walls of economic injustices or any other social economic injustices that we see across the board, and bridging those gaps so that everyone could be on an equal playing field. Unity is key in the way to go.
Awesome, awesome. And for everyone that joined us for this conversation, as we go through the day, I would recommend you to write down nuggets, right? As you engage with the speakers, because for me right now, the call for action from Salika and V Speak Life, I want to say both
It's
at this
fine.
point, is treating survivors with respect, right? Meaningful connection and unity. So how can you contribute to everything that we've heard so far already, powerful statements in your community? So going deeper into this, the whole outlook, vision for our first day together. What are the keys to effective survivor-driven prevention efforts in your based on your work, based on your expertise and information that you want to share in this space?
you know, I believe it's really critical, and this is my humble opinion, that it's critical for us to focus on our children and our youth. Not to say that the adults we've missed it and we don't have an opportunity to move forward, but I'm thinking of like Vivian, who spoke earlier, our youth advocate. And Miss Vivian, thank you so much for doing what I'm about to say, raising your voice to assist others. So our voices are so powerful, and having an opportunity to even share your voice with the world at any given point, that's the starting point. So it's empowering others to realize, number one, that they have a voice. So many people that as survivors that have come out, we're the blessed ones because we're here talking in front of this audience.
Yeah.
And so many are unable to do so because of the death toll. Keeping that in mind, our voice is one that was silenced, perhaps during the experiences that we encountered during those abusive moments, abusive years. Some moments, some are years. It spans, it varies from person to person. And in that uniqueness, there is still something that was global, in that we all lost our voice. We all lost that opportunity to speak up and speak out against the injustices that we see in our own home. So empowering survivors on the other end, letting them know that you still have a voice, you still have freedom, and we're going to help you revisit, relive, refresh, revitalize your thoughts, beginning with your mindset. So we want to free your mind, letting you know that you're no longer a prisoner. And then those come back on the other side in real life with other people, giving you the economic empowerment that you need, giving you the resources and tools that you need so that you can make the appropriate advancements and see your life as you truly envision it, not as a prisoner of someone, of yourself, but someone that can freely move about and take on the world as you see fit.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let me see. How do I follow that? But to answer the question, my belief is that we begin as early as possible. We have to empower our youth. We have to begin to let them know that their voices matter. You know, in all of the awareness and the education pieces that are out there, and this is just my opinion, that we place the burden of education and awareness on the female. You know, we need to be more inclusive in that. That needs to be, everybody needs to be in the table when we're out here doing the education piece. And so, like I said, we have to take some of that burden from our young females, remove that burden and empower them that their voices matter, that they do have options. You know, oftentimes with our youth, you know, when they begin preschool, 4 or 5 years old, and people will often tell them, if the little boy hits you, that means he likes you. And that's the beginning of, you know, well, he likes me, he hits me because he likes me. And those are the things that we have to get away from. We have to steer them away from that. That is not okay. That is not. And even as young as 4 or 5, you can start to try to break those habits that they perhaps learned either in their environment or in the home. That even that male may think that's okay because that's what I see when I'm at home, but no one is here to tell him any better. And so we have to start as young as possible and start by believing. You know, when people say it's something going on, give them that time to talk and express themselves. I believe you. When you're ready, I'm here. You may not be ready today, but when you get ready, I'm ready whenever you are.
Yeah.
You know, just start with letting them know their options and being trauma informed with all of your responses.
Yes.
So Lika, that's such a great point that you bring out. And then talking about our youth and thinking of ways in which we can actually bring about the best in our children and also in each other.
Yes.
You know, just a matter of how we even speak to one another and address one another with utmost respect and kindness and gentleness. And, you know, you think of any of those virtues that we have, being compassionate or having empathy towards one another, that it's almost a lost art, if you will,
Yes.
especially with social media and what we've seen across the years with how people are being bullied on social media platforms even. And it's like you're feeling a sense of being able to hide. But I feel like we have a responsibility to, one, teach and train the right way. And we do that with how we talk to one another, right? So with how I have a 12-year-old son. And I'm working on it. You know, get up, son. It's time for you to get up in the morning. That's a struggle, but let's not think about that part right now. The bigger part is, how do I talk to him, and the importance of how I treat him, and how he visualizes a woman or a potential mate in the future. How does he see himself growing? If I don't start with him, I'm damaging a complete human being. But my goal is to add in some preventive measures to keep him from falling into the traps that I fell into. Yeah. Some things that I wasn't taught in school, different things that I've learned now about the different dynamics of, like, what is even domestic violence? We didn't have this conversation. Exactly. So for us to have even the opportunity now with organizations like NRCDV, organizations like the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence, these organizations are here to help us bridge those gaps, and really using those resources and tools again to give us a bigger opportunity to spread those messages of love and kindness outward. And I just think that's really a key in focusing that back on our children.
Oh, yes. So call for action, start early.
Yes.
Yes, start early. You're talking about starting in our homes. You're talking about the words that you use, teach and train, right? So we're modeling the behaviors that we want. And Salika, like you talked about, engaging young people, right? Early. And I think I would add to, both comments, is empowering young people and creating spaces for young people to demonstrate their leadership abilities, because that's what we've been told by young people. I am a leader, right? But when I engage with adults, they don't engage with me as an expert, right? They're talking to me instead of talking with me. So I think, yes, having those conversations and compensating young people, yes, compensating them, for their time and their expertise. And again, that's what we've heard from young people. We want you to create space, and we also, we want to inform your prevention efforts, and we want you to compensate as well. So I'll add that to how we engage and empower young people. So another question, how can a program begin to implement survivor-centered prevention? And you already offered some strategies, but if we have, an advocate or an activist, a preventionist in this space with us, and they're like, I don't know, like everything you're saying sounds great, but how do we begin to implement what you're talking about in our programs? What would you say?
Yeah. You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay, for me and in creating programs, I would say the first thing that staff or anyone who has an interest in doing that is make sure that you're trauma informed. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to rush someone to tell you their story too early. You don't want to appear as though you don't care. And what that does is sends that person back into their abuser. It sends them back into harm's way. That's what you don't want to do. Listen to the survivors and their needs. You may create a program and you say, hey, we can get you housing, we can get whatever you need, we can get these things, we can get housing, we can get you job training, but my immediate need is I just need something to eat.
Mhm.
And so they're tuning out everything else that you're talking about, because that's not my immediate need right now. My immediate need is food, it's shelter, and it's safety. I need to feel safe. I need for myself and my kids to feel safe. Because, and I'm just going to use from my personal experience, and this was over 25 years ago, when I was in the emergency room and I was battered and I was bruised and I was purple and I was blue. And the social worker looked at me and she said, "Why don't you just leave?" And I looked at her, I said, "And go where?" My immediate need is not to leave him right now, even though I know that's something that I need to do. But my immediate need right now is I need to get to safety. I need to make sure that I'm okay. I need to make sure that my children are okay. And you're talking about leaving. And so everything else that she told me, it just bounced off my head, because that's not what I needed at that time. I needed safety. And if I had a good night's sleep, then I could have thought and gone through the process the next day or within 48 hours, I could have made better decisions. But when that person has alienated you from your family, alienated you from your friends, your immediate need is safety, because that's all I had. Where do I go for the night? Can I come to your house? Are you going to put me up for the night? Where will I go?
Yeah.
And everyone was not as fortunate as in my situation to still have family. Where my family was like, well, I had to listen to the "I told you so's," but I had somewhere safe to go that night.
Yeah.
And so we also need to be the change. We need to be the change. If you don't like the laws, if you don't like the statutes in your county, then you advocate and get those things changed. And make those survivors a part of it, because their input is important. That's where you'll get your numbers. That's where you'll get your stats from.
Thank you so much. And Fee, before I turn it over to you, just want to highlight some of what Salika said around basic needs come first, right? So regardless of your title, regardless of your role, basic needs, listen to survivors, their basic needs come first. And then engage survivors to be a part of the change that you desire, right? So you're having conversations with survivors about the change that you desire, about systems advocacy, and you're also paying attention to their needs. So it's not an or, it's an and, right? Basic needs are important for survivors, and we also need survivors' voices in order to create the change that we desired. That's amazing. Thank you. B.
All of what Salika just shared, absolutely everything. My favorite part, our key point was listening. And to piggyback off of that, we do everything to listen, and then we want to do everything we can to know and understand our audience. If we don't know who we're supporting or serving, that's an issue that you're giving, and oh my goodness, they're not receptive to all the things that I'm giving them. Well, they don't want it. So one key thing that we can do is just know who we're working with, and safety, so important. And what I like to add to what Salika shared is in implementing a program or any service that you're wanting to provide. I think it was Les Brown that said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Amen.
So think and consider of all those things that you want to do, and you have that thought in mind, and you have this great idea. And I think this is applicable to both the larger organizations like NRCDV, GCADV, and also some of the smaller grassroots organizations like Mind Shifted Masterpiece. We have an opportunity to reach the masses, and we can do so collectively. One thing that I like with the GCADV, the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence, their program, they have another, which I'm a part of, it's the Community Rise program. This program has given us an opportunity to reach out, seek, and connect with other smaller grassroots campaigns like myself, all focused on the BIPOC community and looking for opportunities of economic empowerment and justice across the board for DV survivors. And with this, I've had an opportunity to make true connections, and that's another start. So without just saying, oh, I want to do so many great things for the world, but budget is so critical and money is short sometimes. But being able to partner with other organizations or even with other individuals who are just as passionate about the service that you want to provide is also an awesome thing. And when we're talking about unity, it kind of starts there. You can't work in silos and think that unity is going to happen. We have to begin making more true, meaningful connections with one another and not thinking it's a competition. That competition piece can kill and damage us all. When we the survivors, we don't want that. I don't want to go to an org, oh, don't go there. No, this is a sisterhood, brotherhood connection that we have in making sure that people receive the support that they need. So again, thinking with that thought or idea and going for it.
Hello.
Mapping out and making a plan of action and not just a lot of talk and, oh yeah, next year we want to do the following things. How are you going to get there? Map it out and make it happen.
Right.
Woo, that's a tweet, whatever. Whoever's on social media, map it out and make it happen. That's a tweet. Great insights. And again, the listening, I'm glad that you lifted up Salika's point around listening. And Les Brown's quote is resonating with some folks in the chat box, resonated with me as well. And the main part, you have to start in order to be great, right? And you lifted up a local program that we'll make sure that we include the resources. We'll hear more about it in a workshop, but the Community Rise program as well. So thank you for doing that. I've tried to summarize everything and know your audience, know and understand your audience, and listening, that's key. Yes, map it out and make it happen. I love it. Ooh, so you'll have opportunity over the next 2 days to create your map and create your strategy, because we have, in addition to V Speak Life Morgan and Salika, we have a lot of other amazing speakers that's going to give you some nuggets so you can plug it into your map so you can make it happen. We're not going to spend time together over the next 2 days without a plan at the end of the 2 days. So start working on your plan, whether you have a little pad like I do, or you have another thing like I do. I'm writing everywhere. So we'll give you opportunities to just record and listen. And if you miss anything, we will definitely have the recordings available at the end of the sessions in a few days, available to everyone as well. So we have one more question. And then if there's any questions that folks want to share with us, I think you have the option to come off mute. I'm not going to give any instructions about that. I'll let my colleagues at NRCDV confirm how you want to, if you have questions, how you can ask those questions. So Casey, if you can prepare to jump in and provide some guidance around that, that'll be helpful. So last question, how has this work been important to your own healing and resilience? And there was a comment earlier after you had made a comment, V, someone said, I love that, an amazing reminder that we get to choose how we heal. So that falls into this question, like how has this work been important to your own healing and resilience?
Would you like to go, Salika?
Go ahead.
Thank you. My personal story started maybe a year. Well, it started about 7, 8 years ago. give or take, maybe take. That experience took me through of course, emotional roller coaster, even after I was out of the situation. Leaving out, I left blind in my left eye and unable to see. And my son at the time was about 5 years old. Here, younger, not necessarily young, just younger, and needed to, what Salika said, find that safety first. So once I found that safety or a safe space, and then beginning to move into a transition mode of doing everything that I can to make sure that my son is secure and he is in a more consistent, stable environment. I think I focused a lot of my attention on him during that time. And it was a necessary thing for me to do, was just that. Find some mode of stability. And I found it for him, but then his mom needed I needed some stability as well. Mm-hmm. And the more I moved and made sure he was okay, then I was able to check in on his mom. Now, am I okay? You know, I became busy and began to move and do things, not necessarily in the community, because I was still afraid to move outside of that 5-mile radius of where we escaped to. And I remember sharing my story with someone for the first time, and those tears began to flow. And they would just say, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. I would never know. I would have never known." And I began to share my story, and I began to become more vocal and began to open up a little more. I went to counseling, and that's where I really opened up even more of myself. And because, of course, and with counseling, you have to be honest and you have to give your true self. And otherwise, what's the point? There's no purpose. The counselor can't help you because they can't see you. They don't know you. They don't know the story. So you have to be honest and you have to open up. So that allowed me to open up more. And then I had the audacity to write a book about my story. Because, you know, when you think about all of the things that you encounter in this situation, this is the whole movie. And then you find out you're not by yourself. There are so many others out there that have the same story, different characters, different names, similar scenarios, but we're all so connected to one another. And I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a whole community of survivors out here. I didn't know there were people that went out speaking about it. Not that it was shunned, I just never heard of it. I actually thought that this was something that happened in lower economic environments. Well, I didn't think I came from that environment and didn't think that, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Oh, no, absolutely not, right? A little bit too, thinking too highly of myself in those moments. So when someone would do this to me, I could not understand. I put it into words. So fast forward to starting the nonprofit. I wrote the book and started the nonprofit all about the same time. And really, when you say healing, sharing my story has been a healing. I can't say that writing the book was necessarily healing. It opened up more wounds because I had to go back and revisit a lot of things that occurred. But sharing more and supporting others, really, it is absolutely a healing mechanism for me. And grabbing someone else's hand and saying, "Hey, let me help you. This happened to me too. Let me help you," so that, and then going to the community and saying, "Hey, what can we do to make sure that this doesn't happen to some other people? How do we prevent this? How do we stop talking? How do we begin talking more about it, raising more awareness? And then how do we keep it from happening? We talked earlier about unity and doing all those things we can to increase and bring about more unity in our world. We have to do things that would symbolize it, representing, but then actually those action steps.
Yeah.
Making it real.
Yeah.
So that we can impact not just our immediate family, but we can't impact the world if we don't impact our own selves and our own homes. So starting the organization, I think I'm answering your question.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
With the goal in mind of bringing about unity amongst everyone, men, women, boys, girls, schools, the fraternity, everything across the board, this organization, we're all one. So when we think equality, that's where we drive and making sure that we all have some level of freedom so we can move and operate as we please in peace across the board. Thanks for asking that question. It's a loaded answer, but thank you for asking.
Thank you for that answer. And I'm not going to try to paraphrase. I'm going to leave it as you expressed it because you did it so well and it's your story. Thank you. Salika.
Whew, let's see. Sharing the story and how it has impacted my life. Let me first say, V Speak Life Morgan, we are sisters from another mother, because when you said that left eye, I was half an inch from having to have stitches in my left eye.
Wow.
So I'm sitting here, I'm like, wow. But I couldn't show it in my face, but on the inside, I'm like, wow. And I said, and that was just confirmation that other people have the same struggles that you have. And in sharing my story, especially when I worked in the law enforcement realm as the advocate, I had to share my story several times because one, I had to be able to relate to my clients. Because if I walked in there with a dress and high heels, and they're like, this lady doesn't understand where I'm coming from. She has no idea. And so, I started to dress down so that we could talk and we could establish that rapport. And so in sharing the story, she would walk in with her head down, and I did assist males as well. But the majority of my clients were female. And so they would walk in with their heads down. And as I started taking those layers off that onion, and their faces started looking up like, she does understand. She does understand. And then we would go into court, and one abuser looked at, and I could hear him when they were walking out and said, man, her attorney, and I'm not an attorney, but that's how hard I advocate, because that was me. That was me. I didn't have, they didn't have advocates then. They had the social workers who basically their job at that time was just to give you referrals. That was basically all that they did. And they would come in and talk to you for just a few minutes, but I didn't feel as though I could relate to them. They didn't understand what I was going through. They didn't share anything with me. They didn't give me a mentor or anyone who I could go and ask these questions to. And so when I was in the hospital, again, Black, blue, swollen, the whole 9 yards, I vowed that when I said, Lord, when I get out of here, you have revealed your purpose to me. I have work to do. And just like, again, V, I went into overdrive. I just started working. And people that I would know that would be involved in domestic cases, I would check in on them. Hey, how are you today? What do you need? How can I help you today? How can I be of any assistance? Because those are things that I knew I needed at that time. Because, and someone asked me years ago and they said, well, what did you do when you left the hospital? I said, I had to go back to being mom. That was my first priority. I had to go back to being mom. Black eye, whatever the case was, I still had to be mom.
That's right.
I threw myself into work and I buried it and I buried it and I buried it, but there's only so much dirt that you can bury that secret in.
Mm, 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 mm.
And my revelation actually came, and I worked with people in the domestic violence realm. We had worked together, and all that they ever knew was that I was a survivor. That's the only thing they knew. I'd never shared my story. And I was asked to come and just discuss some referrals and some options for people who were coming out of domestic violence.
Mhm.
And I heard that voice. I am a believer. I'm also an evangelist and an ordained minister.
Mhm.
And God whispered to me on that audience, and he said, "It's time, sister." And I was in my head, I'm like, "Lord, is this the right time? Are you serious? Right now, with all of these people out here, my mentors are out here, these people that I've worked with, and they never knew the story." And he whispered again, "It's time." And there I was on the stage and talking to people who I worked with for years who had never heard the story in its entirety. My clients that I work with, they knew, but the people that I work with had no clue. They just knew that I was passionate about the work that I do.
Mhm.
And it actually helps you to bond with your clients. It helps them to trust you that I am here with you through the process.
Mhm.
And so I can say it was kind of my therapy. It was my first therapy until I got to the point where I said, you know what? It's time to go ahead and process this. It's time to go ahead and process this, because I was hitting a brick wall. I was experiencing all of these emotions. And even now, it's been more than 25 years. And that anniversary, right around that time, I can feel it. It's that seasonal depression.
Mhm.
25 years. So it's not something that's that simple to get past.
Mhm.
But that therapy, and even in trying to get my clients to start going to therapy, I have to let them know that piece as well. Therapy works if you're committed to the process. And again, whenever you're ready, I have these resources available for you. You let me know.
Okay.
I'm here to walk with you every step of the way. You have help. You have a mentor. You have someone to walk you through all of those feelings. And so, yes, it was not only helpful for them, it was helpful for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Salika. Thank you both for sharing your story. And, as we do this work and we talk about survivor-centered prevention, people may be hearing your stories and can only think about enhanced responses, right? And I think we're here because, well, first off, the planning group and NRCDV was intentional about starting off this event with survivors' voices. So that's one nugget. As people continue to develop programs, and so much that you both have shared can impact prevention programming. So I would also suggest, I'm sure people took a lot of notes, like I took a lot of notes as well. But if folks can go back and listen to, what you all just shared, so many nuggets to inform our prevention work. So we have a question in the chat box, and I don't want to lose it from Nicole because there's more stuff coming in. I want to present the question to you, give you a minute to think about your responses, and run through the agenda really, really quickly so folks know what's coming up ahead while you think about your response. So the question, is there any advice either of y'all can give to masculine presenting or more masculine individuals that work with survivors on how to not trigger or possibly upset the client and show that we can understand their struggles and what they've been through? So I don't know if you have access to the chat. That question is in the chat. I'm going to come right back to your responses, but just wanted to let folks know what's coming ahead as far as breakout sessions if folks didn't get their what do you call it, agenda, because I do want the last voices in this space to be yours. So it'll be that question and anything else that you want to share as far as closing out this session. So coming up in the breakouts, we have elevating community-based solutions, so alternative forms of safety and justice. We also have border policies and issue of racial justice and safety for victims of gender-based violence. Engaging survivors and grassroots organizations in policy advocacy, centering economic justice in our work. Is that for? Yes, yes. So that's what we have coming up. Again, the agenda was and the program was just dropped in the chat box. So back to the question, V and Salika, you can respond to the question and your closing remarks. What is the must hear that you want people to hear from you and take away? And then after that, Joe, you can come in and just do your part.
Okay. So did you want us to answer the question that's in the chat?
Yes, answer the
Okay.
question and then give us your closing remarks. Something
right.
people must hear from you, but we didn't ask.
Okay, to answer the question that's in the chat, and I, of course, when I was in the law enforcement realm, that happened, quite a bit. My suggestion, but then, even in that case, they had me to come in and, hey, the tap out method, hey, tap out. Let me take this. But my thing is to become and practice being trauma informed. If whatever trainings are available out there, because your reaction or failure to react appropriately will determine how that case turns out.
Mm.
You are the buffer between, or the deciding factor between that person leaving or that person returning.
Mm.
And so that would be my thing, is to become and practice being trauma informed. And I don't think that's just a female thing. I think all, if there's, males and females should be trauma informed in their responses. And also get your survivor involved in that process. Ask them, would you rather talk to a male or a female staff? Don't just give them a male because that's all you have available. If they ask for a female, then you need to make it possible that they speak with the female member of staff. Whatever accommodations that you need to get for that client, then that's what you should do. And again, just make sure that they're trauma informed, because what you don't want to do is trigger that client and your case is blown.
Mm.
You want to be able to prosecute if there's information out there. You want to give that client every piece of information, any advice that you have for them, you want to make sure that they have it. You want to equip them to make decisions for themselves. And you also want them to make the right decisions, whatever that decision may be. Because we already know the statistics of how many go back, how many return, how many times it takes for them to leave. We all know that we're doing the work. So your response to that person can make or break that person in that moment. And just like me, 25 years later, I could still tell you the words that social worker spoke to me while I was in that hospital. That's why I'm in social work now. Because I wanted, and for me, everything that went wrong in my life, and that was just one of the things that has happened to me. But for every wrong thing that went in my life, and everyone who treated me differently or cast me away, I wanted to become better than that person treated me. I wanted to become the better advocate than what I had that day. I want to be the better social worker than I had that day. And so those bad experiences, you can turn them around. And that made me a better advocate for the clients that I serve. That will make me a better social worker for the clients that I serve. And that's how I do it.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. V, your response to that question and any closing remarks? I wish we had more time. We have like 3 minutes left together.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. But we covered so much. And again, the recordings will be available. So your response and you closing us out.
Sure, and thank you so much for the question. And I think this actually goes for the masculine and feminine, or all gender, I think, in responding to the survivors that you're working with at any time, and even outside of that. I think I used the term virtues earlier. So if we begin building our virtues language and pointing out in others the virtues that we see. So determination, cooperation, reliability, courage, kindness, honesty, all these different virtues that we have, and begin to acknowledge those virtues that you see in someone else. So of course it begins with that level of compassion, empathy, and kindness that you have, even just to be an advocate in and of itself, right? That it starts there with you have a passion about the work that you're doing. But then in dealing on that one-on-one level, and I'll give you an example of you take an opening phrase, the virtue, and then give evidence. I'll say it again. Opening phrase, virtue, evidence. With the opening phrase, you could say something like, you demonstrated great courage speaking your mind just now. That was an opening phrase, was you demonstrated great. The virtue, courage, speaking your mind is the evidence. And using this type of activity and building on it when we talk to each other, and using that as an opportunity, a door to empower each other in our day-to-day. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier about unity. And that is definitely one of my key messages, is bringing about unity amongst all people, breaking down all walls of injustices, and being able to go outward, spreading that, we go from that nucleus and then spreading outward the love that we see in each other, and spreading it out. And as a closing remark, I'll just say that you'll never find a rainbow by looking down. I think Charlie Chaplin said that. You'll never find a rainbow by looking down. You won't see it. So keep your head up, hold it up high, no matter what situation or the scenario. Hold your head up, speak out. And remember to always speak life, not strife, because the more you speak life, the more positive outcomes will manifest in your life.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Nothing else to say, but deep gratitude and appreciation to you both for everything that you poured into us today. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Thank you so much.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Casey Keene. I'm the Director of Programs and Prevention here at the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence. We hope that you have enjoyed learning from our amazing speakers who are survivors and advocates from the Southern region. We hope you've enjoyed just being in community together. Before we close, I would like to take a moment to thank all of the amazing individuals who helped make this event possible. And I would invite you, please, when you hear your name, feel free to unmute and say a quick hello. We'd love to see your faces. So first, a very big thank you to our Town Hall Planning Committee, who thoughtfully and intentionally crafted our town hall program. So I'd like to thank Alba Jaramillo from the Arizona Justice for Our Neighbors.
Hi, thank you. This was so amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Alba. I'd like to thank Karima Dillard from the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Hi, everybody. So great to be here.
Thank you, Karima. I'd like to thank Nena Minima from Mission Aviz and Southeast Advocates for Family Empowerment in Louisiana.
Thank you, everybody.
Hi, Nena. Thank you. I'd like to thank AJ Burks from the Mississippi Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Hello, everyone. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, AJ. I'd like to thank Molly Dolores from Roberta's Place in New Mexico.
Hello, everybody. Having a little connection issue today, but this was so wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for sharing and being so inspiring.
Thanks, Molly. I'd like to thank Joyce Kiles from Walking into a New Life in Tennessee.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for showing up for yourselves and us. It's been amazing. I've learned a lot.
Thanks, Joyce. I'd like to thank Roy Rios from the Texas Coalition on Family Violence.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. It's been a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, Roy. And I'd like to thank Justin Carter from Carter Prevents in Texas. Are you here, Justin? We'll be hearing more from Justin tomorrow. And I'd also like to thank my friends and colleagues at NRCDV who helped bring the committee's vision to life and who are supporting this event in a variety of ways. I'm sure you've been engaging with them. So please come off mute and say hello. Yvonne Ortiz, our Director of Training and Technical Assistance.
Hola a todos, todes, buenas tardes.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm so happy you participated today, and I'll wait to see you tomorrow.
Joe Ostrander, our Communications Manager.
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be here today, and thanks for letting me be part of this.
Thanks, Joe. Brecken Winters, our Program Specialist.
Hi, everyone. It was great to spend time with you all this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Thanks, Brecken. Justine Robillard, our Senior Communications Specialist.
Hello, everyone. It was so great to be able to learn from all of you and with all of you, and I can't wait till tomorrow.
And last, but certainly not the least, Arlene Vassell, our Vice President of Programs, Prevention, and Social Change. Hey, Arlene. Oh, you're muted.
All right. Yes. Hi. Thank you, everybody, again for joining us. I am full. I was in session A, and I'm just full. So I hope you all are also leaving full. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Arlene. And thanks, everybody, for showing your faces to everyone today. We hope that you've gained both inspiration and also concrete action steps for moving our work forward today and for centering survivors in our prevention work. I would like to invite you to join our Advancing Collective Liberation Learning Community. This is an online space for ongoing discussion, mutual support, and accountability in actualizing our commitments to ourselves and commitments to each other that we take from this space. And I believe that Brecken may have already shared the link to that, and if not, I'm sure she will very soon. Now, I'd like to pass the floor back to our brilliant and inspiring Town Hall Weaver, Vivian Sanchez, to lead us through a closing activity. Vivian?
Hi, guys. Hello. Thank you so much for that, Casey. And along with Casey, thank you so much to everyone who was here today and everyone who participated and all of our wonderful speakers. We have heard a lot of powerful stories today. I want to extend a thank you to everyone here today. You all are our change. You all embody what it means to be a survivor. And all the resilience here today is oh so beautiful and empowering. I think we can all agree that this event gave us so much hope, Again, thank you to all of our wonderful speakers. Y'all are amazing and so inspiring. I once saw this letter from the RAIN team, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network team, and I want to read it because I think it truly fits this event. It reads, "Dear survivors, your resilience is awe-inspiring. Your choice to not stay quiet about violence is worth celebrating. Your advocacy to help other survivors get justice gives us hope for our future. You are incredible. Whether you have shared your story, whether you haven't told a soul, your courage shines through. We hope you'll remember your experiences belong to you, that your story is yours and yours alone to tell. You don't owe it to anyone. You don't have to share details. Your story is powerful and you have power over it. Remember that healing is a journey. It does not have a timeline. There's no right way to go about it. Some days you'll feel just fine, and others you won't. But it's never too late to get help and start healing. Whenever you're ready, we're here. Love, the RAIN team." I'd like to invite you all to take a moment to just breathe. We're going to inhale for 4, hold for 2, and exhale for 6. So whenever you're ready, let's inhale for 4, hold for 2, and exhale for 6. And now I'm going to invite you all to do that a couple more times by yourself. I'm going to give everyone a minute. Now let's do 2 more. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, and now exhale for 6. One more time. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, and exhale for 6. And if you'd like to take more breaths, please feel free to do that. I truly do admire every single one of you. Today, we've heard a lot of empowering, but also heavy things. To allow ourselves the time to decompress, I'd like to do an activity with you all here. This activity is centered around knowing our worth, but also creating a safe virtual space. For those who are comfortable, I would now like to invite you to follow this activity. I will begin now. I want you to take a minute to get in a comfortable position, whether that's laying down, sitting up, or however you feel most comfortable. Now, if you're comfortable, please close your eyes. Give everyone a minute. Now think of the person you aim to be. What job you want. How you want to be towards others. What change do you want to make in this world? Where do you see yourself? Your future. Who are you surrounded by? What have you accomplished? What are you proud of? Now, I really want you to think about how you feel in this moment. What comes up for you? Is it pride, joy, excitement? Maybe even a little fear or frustration when thinking of the future. As I continue, I encourage you to keep your eyes closed and hold on to that image for a moment while I say a quick note before continuing on to the next part of this activity. Oftentimes, we tell ourselves that we are not good enough, that we are not deserving, or that we are not worthy. We create this negative self-talk and we truly believe it. These messages can be in our own voice, and sometimes they can come from other voices in society. While I imagine this, I think of my future job. I want to be a district attorney to help survivors. But for so long, I told myself that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't good enough, or that I didn't deserve it. While navigating these negative messages, I have learned that mantras are a super helpful way for me to meditate and encourage myself. I aim to do mantras every morning to start off my day on a good note. While this doesn't always go as planned, it feels good to have my morning mantras. With your eyes closed and your image in your head, please repeat these mantras after me. I am good enough. I am worthy. I am deserving of all the good things. I am not the mistakes that I make. My productivity does not define my worth. I am perfect the way that I am. I can do it. I am the change I want to be. And the world is a better place with me in it. You can open your eyes now, and let's all just take a deep breath. Now, this may have felt weird or uncomfortable, and if it was, I promise you, you are not alone in that. The first couple of times of doing this, it can be uncomfortable because we don't feel it's true. But the more you say it to yourself, the more your brain will start believing it. It is so important to not only be kind to others, but also yourself. I want everyone here today to know you are worthy and you are enough. I hope you all do some amazing self-care tonight, and I'm sending good vibes to everyone. Thank you all so much for being here, and it has been an honor to be your event weaver. I hope to see you all guys tomorrow on day 2, where we will have so much more content and we will hear more from our amazing speakers. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening.
Gracias, intérpretes.